Here's another important video from the Personal Defense Network. We've talked about some of the advantages that are present when we're operating in a cold weather environment, such as the ease of concealability. One of the other things that comes up in a cold weather environment, or any environment where you can naturally be seen with a jacket on and your hands in your pockets, is this gives an opportunity to actually be much more ready than one might think to use force to defend yourself. With a pocket holster, with something like a double action J-frame revolver, something that is okay to put in a pocket like this, an exterior pocket where you don't have a lot of things going on, you've got that long, heavy double action trigger pull, or again, any of the types of small semi-autos that we can carry in a pocket holster where the trigger is protected, gives us the opportunity to actually be in a ready position. Pete could have his hand on a gun, technically he could have two hands on two guns right now, and very quickly and easily be able to orient that pistol towards something that's going to be vital on my body. Now it may not be the high center chest hit that we prefer, but in an extreme close quarters situation where I've pulled a knife or I've backed Pete up against the wall and I've got a situation here where he just absolutely is being overwhelmed or he's in fear of his life because of that knife threat or whatever else it is, you notice that he's not wearing gloves. As cold as it is today, it's natural for him to want to have his hands in his pockets. If he's got that gun lowered in a natural setting where I don't realize it's there, the minute that he needs to use it, he can simply go from a natural standing position, go ahead and lower that back down, into an orientation position inside of the pocket and actually shoot through the pocket if he needed to. Now this isn't a preferred shooting situation, and it's certainly not something that we'd want to do at extension if we needed to be shooting at something beyond 2 arms reach. But for an extreme close quarters ambush, a time when you get caught off guard with your hand in a pocket with a pocket weapon, or maybe Pete's hands were out and he was trying to calm me down and I didn't go for it. I came in, I drew a knife, I had some other weapon. At this point, he doesn't need to go through any other extra steps. With the right kind of pistol, the right kind of pocket, and a little bit of training, he can fire combat accurate shots in this condition. Now what we've done is we've set up a target here that is clearly about human height. It represents the areas that we would normally want to fire our combat accurate shots into if we needed to stop this person from hurting us, and we know what those are. And certainly this area down here is not going to represent the optimum shooting opportunities if we had our choice of target areas to significantly affect a threat's ability to hurt us. But we do know that if I'm in close contact with this person and I'm in a situation where I fire a few rounds out of this revolver, maybe even just one round out of this revolver if that's all it takes, into this area of the body, somewhere right in here, I'm going to have a significant effect on his ability and his focus on hurting me. Pete, why don't you go ahead and step up. I'm going to have you go ahead and load the J-frame, place it back into your pocket. If you try this at home, make sure that you have a target that's set up at an appropriate human height. Make sure that you're using a target that is completely pass-through so that you won't have to worry about any ricochet or shrapnel coming off of nails that might be inside of a 2x4 or anything like that. So we're using cardboard suspended in front of some chicken wires that we know we're going to get full pass-through with these lead rounds. Make sure you have a safe backstop. And one thing I highly recommend is a spotter. What I'm going to be able to do is check the angles of this situation because the gun is going to be out of line of Pete's sight. And if you're firing a firearm for the first time without looking straight down those sights or straight through your hand focused on the threat at extension, you want someone there to make sure that that firearm is pointed in a generally safe direction, which certainly includes none of your body parts between you and the backstop. Go ahead and finish that load and you can go into your pocket situation. Again, we'd go into the pocket holster, we'd go into the pocket for some types of carry, for example, the J-frame, and at this point, the hand is on the firearm, we're in a ready position. The bad guy doesn't know it, and if this person were to attack Pete in close quarters, Pete would come up to defend. This hand would most likely be here. Pete would most likely be very, very close. But for safety, for administrative purposes, I'm going to take this hand and place it at the small of his back so that we're absolutely sure it's out of the way. I'm going to have Pete orient the firearm towards the bad guy. And again, it doesn't have to go into the chest. It could go straight into the hip area, into the abdomen. And then whenever you're ready, you may press and fire 2 rounds. Okay, stand by. This is a really interesting situation that we certainly didn't plan for, but that I want to talk about. And here's one of the reasons that you don't necessarily want to over-cant and over-articulate that orientation towards what you would have as your preferred area. Go ahead and pull that firearm out to a standard high compressed ready position. And that's what I was afraid of. Take a look at this. Let's get a really good close-up. Let's turn a little bit into the light and make sure we can see that. What we have here with this exposed hammer firearm is a failure to fire. One of the few types of malfunctions we can get with a revolver. And it's an important thing to point out. Now, it would have been great if we had staged this and said, hey, let's try this out to make the point at home, but I promise you that wasn't the case. And this is the reason for a shrouded hammer or a bobbed hammer situation when you have a gun that you ever anticipate firing from a pocket holster. Now personally, I like the J-Frame 642. It's an alloy shrouded hammer version of this exact same firearm. We're going to go ahead and make this safe, and we're going to go again with the same exact drill with a sensitivity towards the fact that the inside of the pocket might actually keep us from being able to defend ourselves. Now in a real world situation, what would we do? We'd grab a good handful of this firearm and pull it as forcefully out of that pocket as we could, ripping through here. We're not going to do that now because of the obvious situation that might develop with a change in the orientation of the barrel. We don't want to move that dynamically in a training environment. But what we are going to do is fix this problem and rerun the simulation so that we can get these close quarter shots fired from inside of a pocket. One of the things we want to do is when I'm inside of this pocket, I don't want to cant this up too much where it creates this tangle. And in fact, you can see the outline right here where it's already starting to get involved there. I'm fine to stay in this position. That round to 38, driving through the hip, driving through the thigh, something like this is going to be fine for my initial shot to stop that close quarters attack or at least affect this person significantly. And then if I want to come out of the pocket, get away and take an extended shot, I'll be fine to do that. So when we're shooting from inside of a pocket, be careful about orienting the gun in a way that's going to get it all tangled up in here, even with something as reliable as a J-frame revolver. So this time, I'm going to let you go ahead and back to your pocket, into your ready position. And again, knowing that this target's going to be up very close and that we have something maybe even below the waist, into the hip zone or into that thigh zone, whenever you're ready, you can fire 2 rounds. Great. And then that allows you to break contact and step away. Now that wasn't nearly as much canting as we had before, and yet we still got shots that would have been up here into a critical area. You can go ahead and relax, release the firearm, leave it in the pocket, and you can see that the damage done was pretty substantial, but it's probably worth the price of a new jacket. Now one last thing I'll tell you, when you practice this yourself, make sure that you have natural fibers and not synthetic fibers in the jacket that you're going to be shooting through. There's no risk of having a fire hazard in something you're wearing when you're practicing shooting at extreme close quarters with a firearm from the pocket.
Check out more videos just like this one at the Personal Defense Network.